Welcome to Addiction Recovery Tip 2 Day. Your hostess is Cindy Charles Ouellette. Cindy is the author of the book, Crying Hearts of the Loved Ones. She is over 11 years clean and sober, an addiction recovery coach and trainer of coaches, a motivational speaker, and motivational writer.
Hello, my name is Cindy Charles Ouellette, and I'm an addiction recovery coach in Texas and West Virginia. I have certificates in both states. And today I would like to tell you, or tonight, about an adventure that I had with my ninth step, which is, and let me read it to you, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. And that's what we do in recovery so that we can be good with ourselves, regain our self-worth, be proud of ourselves, walk tall. Anyway, I got clean and sober in a third world country, and I had done my fourth and fifth step using Joe and Charlie recordings, and I had done my fifth step by taking a trip to the United States for a few days to give that fifth step in English. I wasn't really able to do that in Spanish. And then at that time when I was doing that process of my fifth step, I was able to get strong enough to know that I could come back to my country without drinking, and it was going to be okay, that I would be able to make it alone in America at the age of 59, starting a new life. So I went back to Mexico and began making my amends. And that's what we have to do so that we never pick up or relapse. That's the major thing we have to do. And once we finish doing our ninth step, that's when the miracles begin. That's when we start getting all of our promises from page 84. And so my son was at Great Lakes, and he was at the Navy boot camp. It was during a blizzard time, bless his heart. And so boot camp ceremony was coming up, and I received a call from him. And they actually let him call me and tell me that I really didn't need to come to the ceremony because it would only be an hour long, and then I would not be allowed to see my son anymore because he was going to get on a ship with 500 new Navy people, recruits, I guess, and he would be going away, shipping out for 7 months, and he was to go to the Gulf to Iran in that area. And I said, well, son, don't you want me to be there with your graduation? Because I knew that I had not been the mother I needed to be. And part of staying clean and sober is being a living example that one day at a time, we don't need to pick up or use no matter what. And we walk in tolerance and love and patience. And we make a living amends to the people that we have hurt and harmed. And so I said, aren't you sure? Are you sure you don't want me to go to your ceremony? Tell me deep in your heart, would you want Mama to be there? And he said, well, yes, Mom, but you're going to spend a lot of money that we don't have. You'll just see me an hour, and it's just not going to be worth it for you to travel so far, so hard to get here. And I said, I'll be there. And then I got a phone call from Laredo speaking Spanish. And I said, and he was having a hard time with his Spanish. And I said, do you speak English, son? And he was calling from the Navy. And he said, yes, they told me to call you, and because you didn't understand English because you were coming to the ceremony for graduation, and you really don't need to come. It's just going to be an hour, and then you're not going to see your son. He's going to be shipped out for 7 months. So they said that you really don't have to go through that expense and time. And he said, that's what I did. I called my mom and told her not to come. It was just too far. And I said, son, when you were going through your ceremony, did you feel sad that she wasn't there? And he said, yes. I said, I'll be there. And then I got another phone call, and I told him the same thing. Well, I like to say that I got on everything but a mule to get to that graduation, because it was in the interior of Mexico that I lived, and I had to travel taxis, buses, airplanes, but I got there. And I finally arrived to Chicago O'Hare Airport, I'd say 12 o'clock at night. Now, there had been a blizzard, and there were no planes got into Chicago that day from Houston. But I had worked for Continental Airlines, and I saw that they were having a hard time at the gate because all the planes had been canceled. And I went up and said, I'm going to my son's graduation, and I haven't seen him in a long time. I live in Mexico, and if there's any way I can get on, fine. I'm not standby, but I'm paid. But if I can get on, I worked in Houston Intercontinental for many years. And she says, if anybody gets on, you'll get on. And so I didn't worry. I trusted and relied on God all day. And everybody was panicked. And I just read my recovery readings and my big book and waited my turn. The same time that my plane landed in Chicago O'Hare that night, a Southwest airline plane landed in the other airport, I think it's Midway, and they crashed and ran into a mountain of snow that plows had put. But we made it safely. And so anyway, I made it. I finally got to the hotel 2 a.m, about 3. And I had to be up at 5:30 to get to the ceremony. And I was there, and it was wonderful. And right after the ceremony, my son ran up to me and he said, Mom, you can't believe what happened. I said, oh, it was beautiful, son. I'm just so proud. No, Mom. Listen to me, Mom. There's 500 of us, and they're all shipping out. And to go away and to go to their different ships. And of the 500, my papers got lost, Mom. And I got to stay all weekend till they could find my papers. Can you believe that? I had been praying, God, I don't know what I'm going to do. I haven't been alone in the United States. I don't want to drink. I don't want to feel sad seeing my son 1 hour. Help me to have the strength. Help me not to want to pick up or use over disappointment. And that's what I prayed a couple weeks. And even my online sponsor had given me the phone number for AA and meetings and everything online. I never met my sponsor. He was in California. Well, now I was going to be the whole weekend with my son. And so I called the hotel while we were having lunch, and I said, could I stay the next 2 days? Would that be possible? And they said, why? Why would you want to stay the next 2 days? I said, well, my son's papers got lost, and he's going to be here all weekend. I can have him during the day, but I got to take him home at night at 8 o'clock every night. And listen to this next miracle, please. The hotel gave me a loft suite. It was amazing. A loft suite free for the weekend to enjoy my son. Well, I couldn't wait to take him there because I had been waiting to do my amends to my son. He was the only one left. And if anyone deserved amends, it was my son. And so that's what I did. It's so funny. I filled him with hot bubble bath because he'd been in snow maneuvers in the freezing for weeks, and the last part was in water in the freezing. And so I filled him up with bubble baths, and I went and sat in the bathroom, and I said, I can't see you, son. I can't wait any longer. I've got to do an amends. And I read to him, make direct amends to such people whenever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. And I did my amends. And he was so kind. And he just listened and didn't say a word. I couldn't believe he was so mature. I really couldn't believe it. But as much as I put him through, that probably matured him pretty fast, having a drunken mother. Well, he did go overseas, and I was never worried. I truly trusted and relied on God all through it. And we went through other adventures. But before he went overseas, he was in Norfolk on the Harry Truman. And I was living in Pennsylvania when I came back with a girlfriend I had known. We had a school together in Mexico, and she lived in Pennsylvania. And it was all new to me. I hadn't been in America living in 21 years. And every once in a while, I would think of something that I had forgotten to tell my son in the amends. It had become winter, and I wasn't used to the snow or driving in it or the freeways. It was all very panicky for me. But it was most important to me that I make all the amends I could to my son. And I remembered one morning I was going at 7 a.m. to take the freeway in the snow to a job in another town that I worked where I worked. And I had the cell phone. He called me. And I guess he had just arrived into America back from a maneuver. And I said, son, and I walked off so nobody would hear me. And I said, do you remember the time that I burnt your big bird, your stuffed big bird? I just want to tell you how sorry I am, how stupid, how crazy I am so. And he said, Mom. I said, it's just that, Mom, will you please listen to me? He was on the cell phone. I said, yes, son. He said, Mom, I've forgiven you for everything you've ever done. Listen to me, Mom. It's time to forgive yourself. That's what he said. And I said, oh, I can forgive myself? Yes, Mom. You can forgive yourself. I went on to work, and I was doing my gratitude list like I always do, and I did my work, and a blizzard was coming in pretty bad, and so I left, and I got lost. I wasn't used to finding my way around in the snow. I've been in the tropics of Mexico. And I turned off, and I was afraid. I was frightened, and I was praying, and I saw a sign to the right in front of a church, and it with a red arrow going to the right, and it said AA meeting. Well, I went in there and parked and got into that meeting, got some hot coffee, and the topic was forgiveness. And so I shared what had happened. I shared what had happened when my son said, you've got to forgive yourself. And it was amazing. A man shared and cried his eyes out because he had never been able to forgive himself for what he had done to his son. And then another lady shared and cried, and everybody got so healed, because when you take a pain and share it to a loving and understanding group, you leave 50% of the pain there. And so I wanted to share that with you. One of the first persons you need to forgive is yourself. We're supposed to have a loving higher power. I call him my higher power. I know him as the Lord Jesus Christ. And it's a higher power of your own understanding, the way you can understand your higher power at this point in recovery. Because through life, one day at a time, your understanding of a loving higher power changes. But your higher power forgave you a long time ago too. So this is Cindy Charles Ouellette, and I just want to tell you, forgive yourself too. Thanks for letting me share. And my website is Cindy Charles Ouellette. And I am the author of Crying Hearts of the Loved One. Now remember, just for today, only for today, we do not pick up or use, no matter what.
Thank you for enjoying today's tip of the day. We invite you to tune in tomorrow for another sobriety tip. And please visit our website, cindycharlesouellette.com, to send us your favorite recovery tips to broadcast. For now, remember, just for today, we don't pick up or use, no matter what.